school here. Anything I can answer? Anything? Nothing?
Is there something we should be asking them?
Yeah. What do you know?
I hear stuff around here. I try to either dispel it or encourage it one or the other. But I don't know anything new around here. Usually about this time of the semester we start picking up things. Little things start happening around here. The bowling guys came and went. They ended up hiring 2 or 3 of you guys, which is good. We have Delta coming in here in April. I'm thinking it's April. Delta and a couple other companies. We're having a sort of a mini job fair, I guess. But other than that, I don't know anything new coming up. The drop dates are over. Withdrawals. If you have any designs on withdrawing, if you got too much going on, you still have time to withdraw if you want. But other than that, I don't know what's going on. Sometimes there's something happening, you need to know about the test cell. Maybe ever look at the test cell out there, starting to come along pretty good. So that's happening. But everything's kind of on autopilot right now. Will be probably for a couple of weeks.
The guys that got the jobs at Boeing, do you know what kind of jobs those were? Like getting it on the assembly line?
I heard, and I don't remember, but no, they were like test, completion and test. And so they have been picked up as employees, unpaid employees, until they can get themselves to Washington.
Gotcha.
And there wasn't even apparently an expectation that they have an A&P license. So I think they're going to finish, obviously, get their A&Ps, but that'd be a smart thing to do. They can work the flight line up there. Flight line and the completion center is a good place to work because you make a lot better money than you do just assembling airplanes. Assembly work is, just like stability, assembly work is good. You don't want to be outside, assembly work is good. But my opinion is, having done it, is boring. Because you kind of get stuck in the same stuff all the time. And it's not particularly challenging. It always pays less, always. So, they give you a little task, and that's what you do. And at 3 o'clock or 3:30, you get in your car and you go home. Water your avocado trees, watch the weather, wake up the next morning and go do the same thing. So, any of you who work here at General Atomics, any of you? I know some people, there are some people in the program that work at General Atomics, and they pay pretty good money up to the limit, which is lower than the airlines, and they have great benefits. So if there's 2 of you in a household that are making that kind of money, it's probably okay. But for yourself, or if you have a family and you're the only one working, you're going to make it around here, not like that. So manufacturing is, like I said, it's just not for me. It might be good for somebody, but if you want to be challenged a little bit, use your head, enjoy really what you're doing. That's probably not my opinion. Used to be a lot of aviation manufacturing around here, but with environmental restrictions and cost of fabrication and labor prices and all of that, those places all kind of picked up and moved out. So not so much anymore. And the other thing too is, if you work at a place like General Atomics, building Predators, for instance, you're not really looked on as having been working on airplanes. They're not certificated airplanes. We had some guys that worked on for a little shop here in Gillespie Field, and they did great work there. It was beautiful stuff, but they were museum pieces, and so they were considered non-certified aircraft. So so far as counting it as maintenance of aircraft, it didn't count on that. So they spent a lot of time out there screwing around with that. Had a lot of fun, but when it comes time to put it on the resume, it's like, might as well not even do it. So you've blown some time. most of the time, when people hire you, they wanna see a continuous improvement in your skills along the way. So you get out of school, maybe you don't have any aviation background, but when you go looking for a job, they'll understand that, how skilled are you. Maybe you had some military time before you went to school, and so you have that too, which is good. But know that you want to keep your skills moving up all the time this way, and maybe you'll get into something. We had a guy here. Forgive me if I've already said this, but we had a guy here one time. All he wanted to do was own a little FBO in a little town, live in the country, and he did. God bless him. He loves it. He absolutely loves it. So kind of what you want to do. He lives back east in a little farm, and not too far to the airport. Local airport. He has a little business there. He's in Montana. So kind of what you want to do. But most of you are going to want to have a family eventually. You're going to have to make some money, and there's some good benefits besides. So think about that. That living off the land thing doesn't work so well for most people. Yeah, but you have to love it. Whatever it is you do, love it. If you don't love it, go find something else to do. Yeah.
Is there any certificate that we could get even as students, like it's not pertinent to the course, but you would recommend, sort of like the apprenticeship program for welding that they have here?
I'm thinking if you're going to stay with aviation, certificates, the only certificate that matters is your A&P license. In the automotive world, yes, you want to kind of gather those things up. Once you finish your A&P license, there's some things that you could do to extend your salability or your experience, and that is an NDT certification. There's like 4 different levels of NDT work, so that would be a good thing. Avionics work, avionics electricians or electronics people, so those kind of things. But this is something we have a hard time with here because the automotive people, they get certifications. They're like bricks or blocks, you know, and that builds your career because they don't have like an automotive license like we do. So what they do is they get an air conditioning certificate, and they get a suspension, maybe powertrain certificate, something like that. So all that stuff adds up, and that builds your qualifications to
You gotta
be
renew
good
those every 2
employee.
years.
What's that?
You gotta renew those
And
every
you
2
have
years.
to keep those things renewed. Of course, things change all the time too. So, but when you go to work for a big operator, they're sending you to school all the time. So, Mark and I were last summer. You heard me say this before. We were back in Atlanta at Delta, and they were whining and dining us and all that. I ran into a friend of mine who was there at the schoolhouse. The schoolhouse is kind of a misnomer for it. This place looks like our campus. It's a training center, and they have people come from their system. So they have 65,000 mechanics in their system. Somebody's always going to school. And he was in Guam. He's a Guam guy. I don't know what you call those people out there. His name is Francis Meno. Any of you here from Guam? Either? There's somebody that I got somebody. Anyway, Francis was in Guam, and he worked for Delta, and they would send him to Narita, Japan. They have another schoolhouse there because they have employees all around the world. So he would go to Narita, Japan, and he'd go to school there. Well, I happened to run into him there in Atlanta because he got relocated to Atlanta, and he was in there learning another airplane. So they tend to do this in blocks. So they send you to what they call a FAM, or a familiarization block, and that's where you learn the whole basic airplane. Now he's been with the company for 10 or 12 years now, so he knows a lot about all the airplanes. But they're buying some new Airbus 350s. So they sent him in for a FAM. So it's a 3-week familiarization course to learn the airplane. So that would be sort of like something for an automotive certificate. So So he's always going to school. He goes to school 3 times a year probably. So next time he told me he was going back, he's probably already come and gone, but he was going back for propulsion systems. So he's going to learn the engines, and then he had to learn the electronics on the airplane. You had to learn the flight control, or the flight management systems, or the FMS. So yeah, just like you're talking about, all those things happen in an environment where training is valued, and it's not on your dime, it's on the company dime. So they pay you to go to school, put you up in a Hilton hotel, and they pay your per diem while you're there. It's a pretty good deal. They have quality training, and we're going to get some of that training from Delta. So, as an example, anything in the cabin atmosphere class, or have been in cabin atmosphere. Okay, so you know about the packs and electrical generating and air conditioning and all that kind of stuff. So I was sitting at a table, and his instructor invited me in, and so I sat down at this table, and he says, well, what would you like to learn about today? I sit there and I have 3 screens, twice the size of this, kind of wrap around me. And I said, how about some air conditioning? So he said, okay. So he gives me a code, and I hit the code. Boom! Here comes the airplane, a schematic of the airplane where this stuff's laid out. And it's called computer-based training, or CBT. And so what you do is basically you go through page by page, and this thing shows you where the components are, and that's just the familiarization part. And then the next part, stage 2 on that, is, so I said, well, I know all this stuff already. He said, okay, we'll go to stage 2. So we go to stage 2, and it starts asking you questions or providing information about how the packs work and vapor cycle and all the rest of this stuff. So it starts going into the detail and the theory. And then stage 3 is components themselves, detailed components. So everything that you've been taught up to that point now turns into a component. So where do I find this piece, right? So, so on the engine, where the bleed air comes off the engine, it goes up to supply. It's called customer air, and this comes off the engine. Big turbofan engines, big Rolls-Royce engines. It blows air up into the airplane, and this duct is probably this big around. So there's an intercooler there that cools that air down because it's hot bleed air coming off the engine. And so they use that air then, that intercooled air, to drive the pneumatic equipment on the aircraft, various types of equipment. And so I said, well, okay, where is it? So he says, hit C1 or whatever the button was, the prompt code for it. So I do. And here it comes, it shows a picture of this thing, right exactly where it's located. There's a photograph of this thing, right exactly where it's located. First, it shows you a context photo of the nacelle on the airplane. And then in 2 steps, it takes you right down to the spot where this thing is. You know? I said, so what would I do to this? And so there's a button there for replace it, or repair it, and one to service it. So there's some little things that you might have to do to it. So this thing even takes you in that deep on what you might have to do to it. So you go into to replace it. Gives you a whole list of tools. What kind of tools might I need for that? So it's a page out of the maintenance manual, essentially. So it says you need this wrench and this wrench and this wrench here. You need a blanket. You need to catch some liquids, and so you have to do all this, that. And so it gets right in there. I mean, it's just like you're supposed to be doing. So I was at Oshkosh this last summer, and Boeing makes a training package similar to this, and it's a virtual training package, and it's for maintainers on some of their regional jets, and they're building this now for some of these companies that are out there. So these things are available to smaller companies too. So what you do is you go in there and say, so I want to replace a bleed valve. Well, first of all, where is it? Same thing. I give you a context photo, so you can see kind of the area. It brings you in closer. 3 steps. You're right there. It gives you a list of tools and equipment. How long is it going to take me to do it? For purposes of planning, this is going to take you an hour and a half. I said, is that pretty accurate? He said, yeah, even the slowest guy can do it in an hour and a half. So he said, you could probably change that valve in 20 minutes, but he said, somebody might take an hour and a half to do it. So I said, well, what do I do? And he said, well, you take the cursor, you put an arrow on it, and so you put your wrench on it, and you're taking the nut and bolt off, and you're taking the nut and bolt off, taking so 6 nuts and bolts, you take them off, and this thing just kind of floats away. Okay, reverse that, I'm gonna put the thing back on, goes right back on, put your cursor there. So all this is a lot of virtual training, and I've seen this in a number of different places, and we're gonna try to get some of that from Delta, the same type of training for you folks. So it won't be in workstations probably, it'll be displayed like this because we have so many people. Delta's schoolroom, each schoolroom has like 15 positions in with computers that you're working on. And so we got a couple more than that. So we'll just work on screens. Sure, anyway, with a cursor. So I just have one, you come up and you sit up here and everybody at work, you'd all work like a team. And you just work your way through it. So I'm trying to get some of that stuff. But insofar as answering your question goes, not so much in aviation, automotive, even the diesel guys, but not here. So the A&P is all, it's everything. And while it only gives you kind of thin coverage on a lot of stuff, because there's so many little different things that you have to deal with out there in different places. So general aviation, little airplanes, you've got business aircraft, and then you've got commercial aviation. Each one of those three groups has like just a whole bunch of different things within that. So general aviation would include agricultural aircraft, helicopters, and pleasure aircraft, even small business aircraft, anything under 12,000 flight. So you have all this range of airplanes, and every freaking one of them is different, right? But they're all kind of the same. So that's the best we can do here in January for your license. But when you go to work for somebody, it's really, well, a lot of times it's on you to train yourself and get up to speed, but there'll be somebody there to kind of help you, usually. But when you go to a big operator, they're going to send you to school. So turbine engines, I don't know if I said this or not, but if you went to a turbine engine school, it would be every day for probably 6 to 8 weeks. And then you can take that engine apart, put it back together, but you also have some classroom that would run alongside with that turbine engine. But all these turbine engines are basically the same, so we give you kind of an overview of all of these things. Paul has, well, you know, if you have the cabin atmosphere class, he has a certificate you can get for atmosphere dancing, right? And that's a good thing to have. That's one of those things it's made out of black magic and bullshit. You know, it's a weird stuff, you know. Because you're taking something and compressing it, and making it cold, and it didn't make any sense. But so that's a good thing. But otherwise, we don't have anything like that here. So welding or NDT, non-destructive testing, any of that, you can get certificates for those things. But if you go to work for an airline and you do some welding there, you'll have to be certified by them. They're the ones that, because they operate as repair stations generally, so the FAA requires that they do the certification. Now you can go in there with those skills, to be sure. When I worked at the jet shop over here, I was a manager at the jet shop for several years. We had welders come in; they were certified welders, and there's different certifications for those guys. And we hired a bunch of those guys to repair combustion chambers and engine cases, all kinds of things. But we have to know specific things. It ain't like going out welding on a Caterpillar, you know, after they're done all day, you know, building up the teeth back on the scrapers or something. So it's it's pretty interesting work. You can get those get that background. California, for whatever else it is, has good educational system. And so night schools and trade schools, a lot of those out there will get you certified. So NDT, one of the things that I regret when I got out of the Army, it was a woman, right? So I raced home to see her. What I should have done, I got out in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. What I should have done was stopped at Spartan School in Oklahoma City and got my NDT certification. I regretted that quite a lot of years. You know. Sorry, close your ears. Close your ears. Women come and go, but you're going to have to work the rest of your life. So you can think the same thing too. Guys come and go the same thing. So I know you're getting married. forget I said that, but know that these skills are gonna be transferable throughout your entire life. Anything that you can do to enhance that ticket is gonna be a good thing. I had my EMP license. I had a job waiting for me when I came back, and so I was fat. I was looking good. But I really wish that I had gotten an EMP certification. But like a lot of automotive jobs, that also has to be refreshed every couple of years too. And you'll find that inspection jobs, many of the inspection jobs, you'll be trained for specific inspection techniques, maybe getting print. Maybe it'll be some sort of liquid chemical penetrant, maybe X-ray or gamma ray, maybe any of those things. It could be any of those things. But you'll be trained by the operator to do those jobs as an inspector. And inspectors make more than the regular mechanic guys, and their work tends to be a little boring because you get to be so specialized. But you do make more money doing that. Yeah. So think about that. Get your licenses. Think about that first, and then start tacking on this other stuff. There's a movement, and I should tell you this too, that hasn't really plowed forward very well, and that is to give E&P licenses for specific types of airplanes. So some people will never work on little airplanes. They'll only work their whole life. They'll work on transport aircraft. So there's a movement. It's kind of a continuous push with the FAA, with certain groups that are pushing this, just to get people licenses for heavy transport aircraft. So you can't work on little airplanes, or little airplane guys can't work on big airplanes. So you'll need other certifications, other
Wouldn't
trainings.
that kind of fall under like the repairman certificate?
Well, a repairman certificate is of course if you're working for a repair station. So
Wouldn't they be better off just to come up with something like that?
yeah, it kind of is, but so here's a good example of that. So here's an airline that operates basically as a repair station, and so they operate under different rules, but they operate like a repair station. So their mechanics could work without an A&P certificate, but the FAA has heartburn having a bunch of employees that don't have an A&P certificate. So part of the deal is that part of their deal with the FAA is that they have to have or have to employ their people have to have A&P certificates. So it's a level of training that is not brought about by the operator. It's brought out, they bring these people on already certified. So you have to have a certain level just to get those jobs. And that's something that is probably a good thing, because otherwise, let me tell you this. So when I started getting my A&P license, I went to school with a bunch of guys here in town that worked for a little airline here called PSA. And most of these guys were ex-Air Force guys. And the ex-Air Force guys, they were all highly qualified, good guys, smart. But the airline told them, they said, you got a year to get your license, finish your licenses. And so they said, otherwise we're going to put you on the street. And there was a lot of talent then. And so these guys had their back to the wall, so they'd work a full shift and then they'd go to school. And they get their licenses and everything was fine. But they it was a requirement of your employment that you had an A&P license just to get in the door. And so that helped me because I got my license and I got a job there almost immediately. And I almost didn't have hardly any experience. I had some helicopter experience in the Army, but that was about it. I hated cars. I knew I worked on cars. But what they're looking for is, can you turn a wrench and can you validate the fact that you're able to turn that wrench in an E&P license? What is that?
Earlier today, I was talking to Paul, and he was talking about the advanced composite course that you guys are going to offer over the summer. But he was telling us that it's going to be pretty much what General Atomics is looking for, to on par with them. Is there any other classes that are being talked about being offered later on and down the pipeline?
I think if somebody took that would be a good feather in your cap. You won't get any kind of certificate. I don't know if he's going to have a certificate or not for that, but you're right, it is kind of tailored towards what GA is looking for, but those are the same techniques that they use in heavy jet. And one of the things that Delta wants us to do is develop a good composite program here. So they're willing to give us elevators and rudders and that kind of stuff to do repair work on. Because they do that stuff. They also have an in-house facility that does a lot of composite repair. So they're doing Kevlar and boron. They're doing carbon fiberglass, all of that. So they're, it might be something as simple as a liner on the inside of the cabin, that when you're sitting there in your seat drinking your martini, and it's the plastic thing that goes around the cabin inside that frames the windows. Might be something as simple as that, but it also might be something like a flight control or repair jet pressure vessel.
I know when I worked for Northrop, the Global Hawk and Triton was riddled with honeycomb and it was pretty closely all composite. So
Yeah.
I know they were interested when I was talking to them.
And that's the way the airplanes are going. Anything that's riveted is automated riveting mostly anymore on the fuselages and some of the structure inside. It's mostly automated, so somebody sits there and watches this machine spit a rivet into a hole and bang it down. They don't. The sheet metal work is still viable because there's a lot of stuff that has to be fixed. So we have a student, an alumni that works at Hawaiian Airlines, and Jenny Bishop. Jenny works out there for those people, and she knows sheet metal pretty darn good, and they're using her talents all the time to repair those airplanes. So there's always something that needs to be fixed, and if you have the capabilities to do it, yeah, it's a good idea to have those abilities. I wish I had $10 for every patch I put on a fan cowl. So the fan cowl is the thing that wraps around a big turbofan engine. Well, guys run baggage carts into them, they punch holes in them when they climb on them and they're open. They punch holes in them with their boots and they get struck with the ladders and it punches holes in them. It's just plastic and so you have to be able to do a pretty decent repair on them, close that hole, nothing else. And then when it gets back to home base, wherever that is, then they can really do a sweet job on it. But I see my repairs are as good as anybody's. I see them out there flying around. Nobody has to touch them after I get done. But I wish I had $10 for every one of those I did, because it's just ground handling damage. It isn't from birds hitting it or something. It's just mechanics usually or maintenance. So it's a good idea to have that background. And as I say, that's one of the things that Delta wants to see is better composite work. Yeah.
Is Delta coming back out again this semester?
Yeah, we're gonna have them back out, I think at about the end of April, so we're gonna try to have them back in here again, one way or the other. We've got a career center, up on the hill up here. And what you might do, if any of you are looking for jobs, I usually post them up when they come in here, but if any of you go looking for jobs, and usually they start really roaring in here about the end of the semester. But they have a kind of a list or a hot sheet up there that they keep, so I pass it on to them and they put it online. So if you're looking and you want a job, so right now, for instance, Solar Turbines is looking for people, call them packaging mechanics. So packaging mechanics finish putting these things together, and they're pumping stations for liquids, oil usually, or natural gas, or electrical generating equipment. So it's not airplanes, but it's got turbines after it, solar turbines, and it sounds impressive. But any of you work for solar? Okay, so I don't want to badmouth you for work here, but it has a kind of a bad reputation. They have a hard time keeping people over there. They pay pretty good, they have pretty good benefits, but it's a job that you probably only work at probably a couple of years and you'd be looking for something more meaningful. Solar's out there. We have people from back east. Right now, you folks are in a killer spot because we have people from back east that are come out here looking for help. Commute Air, which is out of Ohio, I think. Have you ever been to Ohio? Anybody? Have you ever thought about going on? No?
That sucks.
They're just based out of there. They have maintenance facilities in several cities around the Midwest and the East. So there's that. Envoy is another one. Envoy, let's see here. Let's see, it starts with an E. We had a little girl here, Elizabeth Pianta. Any of you know Elizabeth? Last semester, or 2 semesters ago. She works for Envoy down in Texas. Absolutely loves it. Even with the snow and the wind and the rain and everything else, she's happy. So I think there's plenty of opportunities for you. I could keep talking for an hour about all the different people who had different jobs around the country, and they just love what they're doing. They absolutely love it. And the funny part is they ended up in a place they never thought they'd end up in. So think about that. Yeah, get your NP and then worry about the other stuff. So that'll be really good. And the other thing, actually, the pilot's license. Get a PPL, private pilot license. It's a good thing to get because that shows that you have some understanding of what you're working on. You know, I always talk about how we run things and we do this and that, we do it on the ground, but things change when you put the airplane in the air. So know that the more you understand about the piece of equipment, the better off you are. I had a friend that used to work at, used to work out in La Jolla at a Ferrari dealership, and he'd get done working on the Ferrari, and he'd take it for a spin around La Jolla just to check her out, you know, and he finally got caught doing that. But you kind of need to know what it is you're working on. Yeah.
And for the ground school year for the pilot's license, is it like separated in categories? For the private and others, so that's for instructor.
Oh yeah, we have several different ground schools, and it's funny. There's a number of different people that are in this program primarily that go over there. But there's quite a bunch of them that are in that program primarily that come over here and cherry pick the classes. So it's the one that you would start with over there would be the PPL class, the private pilot license, and that is a standalone class. And we have several people who have done that. So it'll include a lab and a lecture, or you can just take the lab or just a lecture. But there's no flight involved in it because the school district is real risk averse. You know, they don't like the risks somewhere. But I got my ground schooling through the community college district. Worked out perfect. Because you know, if you go to school full time, you got a job full time, and you're doing that full time. It used to be too much, but over 16 weeks, you can walk on your hands doing that over there. 16 weeks, it's fairly simple. Yeah. So, it's really not too tough, but it's a good one to add in if you need electives toward the degree or something. That's something else. We were just talking about that today in the office here. Is that if there's 2 of you with an A&P license and one of you has an associate's degree, guess which way the scale's going to tip? You know, when there's 2 of you looking for that same job. So take and consider that too. A 4-year degree would be better. 4-year degrees is worthy. You probably want to get this done because it's a lot of units here and a lot of work, but consider getting that 4-year degree done at some point after you finish this. But the 2-year degree, boy, try to get that done. Just try to get it. It's another 18 units, I think, 17, 18 units. Just try to get it because it's gonna be the new high school diploma at some point. So yeah, it's a good thing to do. I'm not trying to sell you more classes because you already had it over your head, but it's worthy. It's worth it. And a lot of that stuff, if you take the right classes, it'll transfer into a 4-year degree, which will then make it another 2-year degree. So your bachelor's degree will take another 2 years of full-time work. Or way how you do things the rest of your life, one class at a time. So I went to Stanford like you guys, so I'm like you guys, more than you know. So I understand you completely, and I understand why you don't want to go to school. I went to Stanford for a year, and I was like, well, stick a fork in it. I hated it, just freaking hated it, and so I quit. Quit, and I went to work for the airlines, and that was good. I enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it immensely. But don't get me wrong. That happened during a time when you didn't really need a 4-year degree. Now you're going to need that 4-year degree, believe me. So work on that. You're going to get opportunities beyond being a mechanic in management, and if you have a 4-year degree, that's going to open that door for you. So that's going to be more money. That's what we're talking about here, more dollars. All right, so we should probably talk about turbines a little bit since I've been lipping off here for 40 minutes. Okay. Otherwise, needs a break. So anybody have any questions? I'm happy to answer your questions because you know, I've been down the same road that you guys are going down, and the road is exactly the same as when I went down it. The aircraft have changed, the different models of aircraft, but the pathway is still the same way. And if I can help you with any of that, I'm happy to do it. Because I want you all to make yourself some money and do good in your life. And I think you all can. You all have that capability. Like I say, the business is opening up again in the 80s, mid 80s, when your parents, I don't know if any of your parents worked for the airlines or not, but they were sucking people off the street. We walked down the street and say, hey, I got a job for you. And that's the way it was. You didn't have to know which end of the screwdriver to hold. They would train you, you know, and so, but it's not quite to that point yet. And so another thing I should tell you here real quick before I get started is that seniority. Seniority is everything. So if you hire in here today, and somebody today, you know, so I could go to Stanford, I couldn't spell. So if you hired in here today, you're going to have a higher seniority than somebody that hires in tomorrow or the next day, right? That's how that works anyway, if you don't realize it or not. So that's tomorrow. Okay, and then so maybe Monday, the next Monday from now, anybody hires in, that's going to be their seniority number. And so what you see there is somewhere down the road. So somebody that was hired in 2 years ago, is going to have a seniority number up here somewhere. When there's a layoff, and there's always going to be a layoff, you have to count on it. So try not to live on your overtime. You're going to be making some big coin on your overtime. I ain't kidding. Time and a half and double time on overtime when you're making, just say you're with the airline 5-6 years. 8 years is the top level. So we'll just go straight to the top level. It's about $60 an hour. So time and a half's $90 an hour. Right? Double time's $120 an hour. Is that okay? I think you probably will be behind that, right? So when there's a layoff, they at some point say, well, I need 2 fewer people, right? So they draw the line here. So those 2 people are going to get laid off, and most ordinarily they cut too deep. When they cut too deep, then they have to bring some people back, and they will eventually bring everybody back. It's going to take some time. It might take a year, it might take 2 years. You have to go find something else to do. But these people are still going to be employed, and these aren't. So you want to get yourself hired as quick as you can someplace. Any kind of job you're going to stay in for any length of time. You want to get your butt in the door and get your seniority started. Now, we have a deal with, as an example, so we have Delta Global Services, which is a body shop. What they do is they're body merchants, I should say. And so they work for Delta. They're part of Delta. And so they're for hiring people as temporaries. But most of their temporaries work full time if they work out pretty good. So these people, while they are on the payroll with Delta Global Services, as an example, so American has a deal like this, and United has a deal like this. I'm just using Delta as an example. So what they do is if they hire people, go out and work. Maybe there's an opening. We'll call it San Diego. So San Diego has an opening, but Delta isn't really committed to hiring somebody off the street that doesn't have any experience. So they may bring you aboard as a Delta Global Service employee working in San Diego, and what they're going to do is they're going to look you over. And that manager, whoever you're working for at San Diego, is going to be watching you, and their leads are going to be watching you, and the mechanics are going to be watching you, and they're going to be looking at you. So this is like a giant employment interview, is what it is. And if you pass muster, then you get that job with Delta. Well, the whole time you're working with Delta Global Services, your seniority, if you get hired with Delta, all of that time is going to count for your seniority. So if you work there for a year in San Diego for Delta Global Services, you've already got a year of seniority moving into a full-time mechanic job. You're also getting full-time pay and benefits, just like you were a full-time employee. So there are some compelling reasons to hire in that way also. Now, I'm not saying you're going to get a job in San Diego probably working for Delta Global Services. You're going to have to go to Kansas City or Minneapolis or some other garden spot. But you can do that for 2 years. You can do that for a couple of years. And then after a couple of years, then you can bid back to wherever it is you're trying to get to. So that's the way in. Delta does hire people off the street. Typically, they're people that they know. Maybe they're working as rampers. Is that what you do? You're a ramper.
Moving to part of the line maintenance.
You're a ramper. Okay. So, all right. So what you do is you work at maybe you're not a mechanic, full-blown mechanic. You still work in line maintenance. There's always another level there, one above and one below. And these are people that fulfill, honest to God, good jobs. But he works for Delta. He's going to carry that seniority forward with him when he moves up to that mechanic job, so he gets that license. So how many years you got with him? 7?
Okay.
Yeah, so you move in with 7 years of seniority, so he moves in as mechanics. Top of the pay scale is 8. Cheap. So there you are. So there's a number, usually a number of different ways to skin a cat, and that's one of them. But the seniority deal is everything. It's huge in a big company. A little company, not so much, but because they don't like it. I don't like your plaid shirt. Get the hell out of here. I like beanies, so I'm going to keep him around. It gets to be kind of subjective. It's not fair sometimes, but that's what it is. So seniority. About that. So shit. Freaking my watch not working either, so I did Groundhog Day all day today. So it's 20 after. I'll tell you what. I want y'all to go take a pee run, get yourself something to drink, and when we come back, we'll talk about split spool engines here.